The courtroom went silent the second he walked in, not a frail old man shuffling with a cane. 74-year-old father in a neatly pressed shirt, jaw clenched so tight you could see the muscle jump in his cheek. His hands shook not from age, but from something heavier. Across the aisle, his daughter stood at the podium in a fitted blazer, arms folded, chin high. She looked like every confident professional you've ever seen in a courtroom drama. Polished, prepared, untouchable dot between them. An invisible line cut the room in half. Father on one side, daughter on the other. Family turned into opposing parties under fluorescent lights, and sitting above them, eyes sharp and unreadable, was the judge. Case of Ramon versus Ramon, the clerk announced. Allegations of financial exploitation, unlawful eviction, and abuse of power of attorney. The words hung in the air. The daughter briefly glanced at her father, then away. He didn't look at her at all, thought the judge. Judge Carter adjusted her glasses and studied both faces. One lined by decades of work and sacrifice. The other lined with careful makeup and something harder to name. Before we dive into what happened in this courtroom, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from right now? And if you like seeing the truth crack open in real time, hit subscribe, because what you're about to hear is one of the most chilling family cases to walk into this room. Judge Carter leaned forward. Mr. Ramon, she said quietly, you are suing your daughter. That is not something I take lightly. Tell me in your own words, what brings you here today? The old man swallowed. The microphone picked up the small, dry click in his throat. She took my life, he said. The daughter let out a short, sharp laugh. Oh, come on. The judge's head snapped toward her. One look from her, and the laugh died mid-breath. We'll get to you, Judge Carter said coolly. Right now, he's speaking. Mr. Ramon kept his eyes on the judge, not on the cameras, not on the audience. On the one person in the room who could still give him something that looked like justice. She is my eldest, he began, voice low but steady. After my wife died, she said she would help me. She said she'd take care of the bills, the appointments, the paperwork. I signed what she put in front of me. He blinked once, slow, and then, he said, I woke up one morning and found out I was a guest in my own house. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. The daughter shook her head. This is all exaggerated. Judge Carter raised a hand. Miss Ramon, you'll have your turn. The father continued. She told me I was forgetful, that I shouldn't worry about the bank. She took my cards. For safekeeping, he said, fingers curling slightly as he quoted her. Then she took my car keys, then my phone. Every time I asked why, she said it was because she left me. He paused, eyes suddenly wet but not yet spilling. And then one afternoon, he said, a van showed up. She said it was a short stay, a rehab center after my fall. They drove me to a facility an hour away. When I got there, they told me I was being admitted permanently. The word hung there like a sentence. The audience shifted as if the room itself flinched. The daughter rolled her eyes. It was assisted living. He needed supervision. Enough, Judge Carter snapped, not raising her voice but cutting clean through hers. You will not talk over him again. Understood? The daughter's jaw tightened. Understood. The judge turned back to the father. How long were you there, sir? 42 days, he answered without hesitation. Did you agree to stay that long? No, he said. The first night, I asked to go home. They told me my daughter had signed the admission papers and she was my legal decision maker. They said if I had a problem, I should take it up with her. Judge Carter's eyes flicked to the file in front of her. She tapped one page lightly with her pen, and during those 42 days, she asked, what happened to your house? Mr. Ramon's mouth twitched. I didn't know then, he said. I found out after. How did you find out? He looked down at his hands, at the network of veins and scars that told a life story no one in this room knew. I called a neighbor from the facility phone, he said softly. Borrowed it when the nurse stepped out. I asked him to go check if my mail was piling up. He swallowed. He went to my house, he continued. He called me back and said, there's a moving truck in your driveway. The audience gasped. The daughter scoffed under her breath. He's leaving out half of Ms. Raymond, the judge said, voice icy but calm. If you interrupt one more time, I will find you in contempt. I promise you, you do not want to test me on that. Silence. Judge Carter folded her hands. So, she said to Mr. Raymond, you were in a facility you didn't consent to, and your neighbor told you your belongings were being removed. What did you do? I asked staff to call my daughter, he said. They did. She didn't answer. I asked again the next day. Still nothing. Third day, I begged the nurse to let me speak to a supervisor. He took a breath, steadying himself. That's when I was told, he said, that according to their file, I had been declared unable to manage my own affairs. That my daughter had power of attorney over everything. He looked up directly at the judge now. I never agreed to that, he said. Not the way she used it. The judge's face didn't change, but her fingers stopped tapping. Did you sign anything giving her that authority? She asked. Yes, he admitted quietly, after my surgery. I was on pain medication. She said it was temporary, just while I was weak. She said she'd give it back when I recovered. Did she? The judge asked. He didn't even need to answer. The silence screamed louder than any word could. Behind him, someone in the audience shifted. The sound echoed in the stillness. Judge Carter leaned back. Miss Ramon, she said, finally turning her full attention to the daughter. You've heard your father. He claims you used his temporary trust to permanently take control. He claims you moved him into a facility, emptied his home, and cut him off. Is he lying? The daughter straightened, smoothing invisible wrinkles from her blazer. He is not lying, she said evenly. He is confused. A few eyebrows rose in the gallery. Confused, the judge repeated. Yes, the daughter said. He fell twice. He left the stove on. He forgot to pay the insurance and almost lost coverage. I stepped in. I cleaned up the mess. The facility was for his own safety. The house. It was falling apart. I did what any responsible child would do. Her voice gained confidence with each sentence. And the money? Judge Carter asked almost casually. The pensions, the savings. Accounts, the vehicle sale, the mortgage. There was no mortgage. The father interrupted, eyes flashing for the first time. The house was paid off 10 years ago. The judge turned her head slowly back to the daughter. Is that true? She asked out. The daughter hesitated. Just for a second. Just long enough? Yes, she said finally. But there were property taxes, repairs, medical costs. Someone had to pay for all that. He doesn't understand how expensive care is. Judge Carter's gaze hardened. Lucky for both of you, she said, sliding a thin folder closer. I do. She opened it with the patience of somebody who already knew the ending, but wanted the person sitting in front of her to feel every step of the journey there. Inside this file, she said, I have bank statements, transfer records, an admission contract from the facility, and something else. The daughter's fingers twitched against the podium. What's something else? She asked, trying to sound bored and landing on brittle. The judge didn't answer immediately. Instead, she lifted a small black device from the corner of her desk. It was no bigger than a thumb drive. The father's eyes dropped to it and his jaw tightened. This, Judge Carter said, is an audio recording your father provided. He says it captured a conversation you never expected anyone else to hear. The daughter's composure finally cracked. What conversation? She demanded. He's not even allowed. You'll find out in a moment, the judge replied. She set the device down gently, like a detonator. Before I press play, she said, looking from father to daughter to the silent crowd, I want everyone watching this here in this courtroom and on this video to ask themselves one question. She let the pause stretch. Electric. When money and convenience collide with family and responsibility, she said quietly, which one wins? Her finger hovered over the button dot and then, without another word, she pressed play. Asterisk the speakers hissed softly, then clicked into clarity. At first, there was just background noise, distant clatter, a TV murmuring somewhere, the rustle of fabric. Then a voice came through. Young, female, tense. Just sign it, Dad. It's not a big deal. The daughter closed her eyes for a split second. Everyone recognized her voice. On the recording, Mr. Rahman's voice sounded weaker, thinner. What is it? Power of attorney temporary. The recorded voice of his daughter said. You're in no condition to go standing in bank lines and reading fine print. Let me handle it for a few weeks. Few weeks. The older voice repeated dot asterisk. Stop being dramatic. The younger voice snapped on the audio. You're making this harder than it has to be. I left my job for you. I put my life on hold. The least you can do is trust me. The courtroom watched the real-life daughter flinch as her own words hit the air. On the recording, there was the faint scrape of paper, the soft squeak of a pen. Where do I sign? The father's recorded voice asked. Silence. Then the daughter's voice, lower, almost muttered, but the mic caught it. Right there. That's it. Once this is over, we can finally get control of this mess. The audio clicked, then cut to another moment, clearly a different day. The beeping of hospital machines had been replaced with the clang of dishes, the hum of a refrigerator. This time the daughter's voice sounded lighter, less strained, almost excited. You don't get it, she was saying. Once the house is handled, everything will be easier. No more stairs for him, no more ancient wiring. No more neighbors calling every time he walks outside in his slippers. Another voice came in, male, unfamiliar to the courtroom, relaxed, careless. Yeah. And once it's sold, he said, we're out of debt. Laughter. 2 people. The daughter's laugh among them. She hissed playfully. Don't say it like that. What? The man chuckled. You said it first. The old man's house is our ticket out. The room sucked in a collective breath dot at the defense podium. The real daughter's face drained of color. Turn it off, she snapped. This is taken out of context. He's recording private. Sit still, Judge Carter said, not looking up from the device. We're not done. On the recording, the male voice continued, now more serious. Look, he said, I'm just saying, once he's settled in there, you can relax. No more midnight calls. No more pharmacy runs, just U.S. There was a pause. Then the daughter's voice, soft and unguarded in a way the courtroom had not yet heard. I just need him to stop changing his mind, she said. One day he says, I can sell. Next day he says, it's your mother's house, don't touch it. It's exhausting. If the doctor signs off that he's not capable anymore, that's it. We decide, done. On the bench, Judge Carter's eyes hardened, just a fraction. From the speakers, the boyfriend's voice came again. So what's the holdup? He asked. The evaluation, the daughter answered. Once it says he's cognitively impaired, everything is smoother. The lawyer said so. You sure he'll pass it? The man joked. He will, she said. He forgets what he had for breakfast. He called me by mom's name yesterday. It's time. I'm not the villain for wanting my life back. The audio clicked and went silent. The real daughter stood rigid, breathing fast. The father's shoulders had curved inward slightly, as if someone had just gently but firmly placed another weight on his back. The judge slowly turned off the device and set it down. What date was that second recording made? She asked the father. 2 weeks before I was admitted to the facility, he said. I set my phone on the kitchen counter when she brought that man over. I forgot about it. It recorded the whole conversation. The daughter's voice shook with anger. He secretly recorded me in my own kitchen, she protested. That's not even legal in this jurisdiction. Judge Carter replied flatly. One-party consent. He was present. He consented to recording. It's admissible. The daughter's mouth snapped shut. The judge folded her hands. You told this court, she said, that everything you did was for your father's safety, that you were managing chaos, that you had no intention of taking his home for yourself. She tapped the small device with one finger, but what I just heard, she continued, was not concern. It was calculation. The daughter lifted her chin. Those clips don't show how many nights I stayed up with him when he couldn't breathe, she said, voice tight. They don't show me cleaning the bathroom, cooking his meals, fighting with insurance. I was drowning and no one helped me. Not my brother, not my ex, nobody. Just me. So yes, I got frustrated. I said things. That doesn't make me a thief. For the first time, a flicker of something pain maybe flashed across her face. I loved him. she added, softer. I still do. But love doesn't pay bills. The judge watched her carefully. Did your father ever sign a document giving you permanent authority over his assets? She asked. Not temporary, permanent. Yes, the daughter said. The power of attorney. No, Judge Carter replied. That document was explicitly temporary. I've read it. It says your authority ends when he regains capacity. His doctors cleared him 3 months before the facility admission. She slid a paper across the desk. This is the discharge note, she said. It states he is alert, oriented, and capable of making his own medical and financial decisions. You received a copy. The hospital faxed it to your email. Yet you continued acting as if nothing had changed. The daughter's eyes flicked to the paper, then away. I didn't see that, she muttered. I must have missed it. Interesting, the judge said dryly. Because he replied to that email thanking the caseworker for updating your records. She lifted another sheet. Would you like me to read your exact words? She asked up. The daughter went pale. No, she whispered. The father closed his eyes. Not in triumph. And something closer to grief, Judge Carter continued. While your father was in that facility, she said, you sold his car. Correct? Yes, the daughter answered quickly. He couldn't drive anymore. You also opened a home equity line of credit on his house. That was to cover repairs in his care, she insisted. Judge lifted the bank statement. Is a trip to Bali a repair? She asked calmly. The daughter blinked. What? The judge traced a line with her pen. 5 days after the line of credit was approved, she said, there's a withdrawal for plane tickets to Denpasar. Then hotel charges, restaurants, tours, all under your name. All from his account. The daughter's lips parted. That was my money, she stammered. I paid it back later. Or I planned to. Did you? The judge asked. Because I see no deposits matching that amount in the following months. What I do see is a pattern. She turned page after page, the rustle of paper sounding louder than any shouted accusation. Cash for dad, she read aloud. Every week. 200. 300. 500. Yet the facility billing records show your father's account was being auto-drafted. They never received cash from you once. The daughter's face started to blur at the edges with the sheen of tears. You don't understand, she said hoarsely. I was trying to stay above water. My cards were maxed. My job cut my hours. My boyfriend lost his. And all this time, I'm running to doctors and pharmacies and lawyers for him. It felt like my life was over. She swallowed, voice cracking. So yes, she said, I used some of his money. But I did more for him in 2 years than he did for me in 30. I thought I deserved something. A single tear slid down the father's cheek. He didn't wipe it away. Judge Carter's tone cooled, not unkind, but mercilessly clear. Deserve. She repeated. That is a dangerous word when it's attached to somebody else's life savings. She flipped to another document. This one thicker with tabs along the side. But we're not done, she said. Because this complaint isn't only about bank accounts and vacations. It's about something much bigger. She tapped the folder. This, she said, is the facility admission packet you signed. Specifically, the section where you indicated your father's mental status. She read aloud, each word like a dropped stone. Patient is no longer capable of independent living. Patient exhibits confusion, disorientation, impaired judgment, and inability to understand financial concepts. She looked up. Did you write this? She asked. Yes, the daughter answered, barely audible. On what basis? The judge asked. Which licensed professional gave you that diagnosis? The daughter opened her mouth. Closed it, opened it again. I saw him forgetting things, she said. He repeated himself. He asked me the same question 3 times. He called the doctor sir when she was a woman. He left the milk out. Isn't that enough? No, Judge Carter said flatly. It is not. She leaned forward, her voice dropping into a quieter, more dangerous register, because 3 days before you filled out this form, she said, tapping the page, your father passed a cognitive screening at his clinic with a near-perfect score. She lifted another sheet, clipped to the back. Name, date, location, recall, language, calculation, all intact. The note at the bottom? No evidence of dementia or significant impairment at this time. The courtroom went still. The daughter's shoulders slumped. So here's what we have, the judge continued. You had temporary power to help a recovering parent. You used it long after it should have ended. You described him as incompetent on paper when his medical files showed otherwise. You admitted on recording that you wanted his resistance out of the way so decisions would be easier. You opened credit in his home, sold his car, drained accounts, and moved him out, while moving your life forward. She let the summary sit in the air. Tell me, she said quietly, in what part of that story do you see love? The daughter didn't answer. The judge turned to Mr. Rahman. Sir, she said gentler now, you told my clerk something before this hearing. Something you wanted me to know if things got ugly. He looked briefly confused, then remembered. His eyes flickered with a mix of shame and determination. Yes, he said. I told her that if she just said sorry, really sorry, I would think about ending the case. The daughter's head snapped toward him. You said that? She whispered. Doc, he nodded, eyes never leaving the judge. I'm old, he said quietly. I don't want to spend my last years fighting my own child. I wanted my home back, my name back, but I also wanted my daughter. His voice cracked on the last word. Judge Carter watched the daughter, giving her a moment. Elaine. One final opening. This, the judge said softly, is that moment. The courtroom leaned in, but the daughter's jaw tightened. Her eyes shone, but not with surrender. I'm sorry you feel that way, she said. 8 simple words, wrong in every possible way. A low, stunned murmur rolled through the gallery. The father blinked slowly, as if someone had just shut a door he'd been holding open with his bare hands. Judge Carter's eyes hardened, the last trace of softness evaporating. Very well, she said quietly, sliding a new document from under the file. Then it's time we talk, she continued, about what you plan to do next with a house that was never yours. Asterisk, the new document didn't look like much, just a few typed pages. A logo at the top, the faint impression of a signature line at the bottom. But the way the judge handled it, you'd think it was an explosive device. This, Judge Carter said, is a preliminary listing agreement from a real estate agency, prepared 1 week before your father was admitted to the facility. She held it up so the daughter could see the name printed in clear black ink. Owner, Mr. Imshiz Rahman, she read. Authorized representative, Miss Sarah Rahman. Occupancy, to be delivered vacant. The daughter stared at the page like it was written in language she'd never seen. I met with an agent, she admitted, to get information. That's all. I didn't sign anything, no? The judge asked, flipping to the last page. Because this looks a lot like your signature. She angled the file so the courtroom cameras could catch it, and in the agent's notes, she continued, I see a line highlighted in yellow. Let me read it to you. Client expects full control of property once father is placed in long-term care. Timeline, within 60 days. The audience shifted uncomfortably. The father's fingers dug into the edges of the podium. I didn't tell them that, the daughter whispered. They must have misunderstood. Another misunderstanding, the judge murmured. Seems to be a pattern in your life. She laid the paper down. Here's what I see, she said. You met with an agent before your father was ever moved. You discussed sale. You assured them you would have full control soon. Then, when you had him admitted, you labeled him incapable and told the facility you were his permanent decision maker. She tilted her head slightly. That dangerous, familiar gesture of a judge seeing the whole chessboard. Where in that plan? She asked. Was your father's voice? The daughter swallowed, but said nothing. Miss Ramon, Judge Carter said, did you ever tell your father he would not be returning to his home? I thought, the daughter began, then faltered. I thought after a few weeks he'd accept it, that he'd be happier with people around, staff, activities. I told myself it was better for him. Did you tell him that? The judge asked. The daughter's silence was its own answer. Mr. Ramon spoke, voice quiet but clear. I asked her, he said. In the facility. When she finally came, the judge turned to him. "What did you ask?" She said, "I asked, when am I going home?" He replied. She put her hand on my arm and said, "Bubba, this is home now. Don't make it harder than it already is." His bottom lip trembled. "I didn't understand," he said. I thought, maybe she needed time. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was too much. He looked down, so I stopped asking. He finished. There was a painful stillness then. The kind that makes strangers in a room shift in their seats because the truth hitting one person feels too big to stay contained. Judge Carter let the moment sit. Then she turned unexpectedly to the side of the courtroom. "Mr. Khan?" She called. A middle-aged man in the second row jerked his head up. Surprised. "Please step forward," she said. The daughter's eyes widened. "That's my neighbor." She blurted. "Yes," the judge said. "And he submitted a written statement at your father's request. I'd like to hear some of it in his own voice." The neighbor approached the witness stand, nervous but resolute. He was sworn in, then settled awkwardly into the chair, glancing between the father and the daughter. "Mr. Khan," the judge began, "you have lived next door to Mr. Rahman for how long?" "About 11 years, Your Honor," he said. "Did you notice anything unusual around the time he was placed in the facility?" She asked. He nodded. "Two things," he said. "One, the moving truck. Two, the night he came back." The daughter stiffened. "The night he... what?" she demanded. The neighbor looked at her, then at the judge. "He came back," Mr. Khan repeated. "From the facility. By taxi. 2 weeks after they took him." The father's eyes glistened. He gripped the podium a little tighter. "Tell the court what you saw," Judge Carter said softly. "It was late," the neighbor said. "Maybe 10:30, 11. I heard banging. At first I thought it was something in my own house. Then I realized it was outside. I looked through the window and saw him, standing in the dark, knocking on his own door." He paused, the memory clearly not easy. "He kept knocking," Mr. Khan continued. "Not hard, just persistent, like someone who believes the door will open if he's just patient enough." "What happened?" the judge asked. Asterisk. "I went outside," he said. "I called his name." He turned around. He looked confused, not in his mind, but in his heart, like a man who suddenly doesn't recognize his own life. His voice thickened. He said, "They changed the lock." A low wave of sound moved through the courtroom. The judge's gaze swung to the daughter. "Did you change the locks, Ms. Rahman?" she asked. The daughter's throat bobbed. "Yes," she said. "For security." The house was going to be empty. "It's normal." At that time, Judge Carter said, "Was your father alive?" "Yes," she snapped. "Of course. Did he still legally own the home?" The judge pressed. "Yes," she muttered. "Then it was not empty," Judge Carter said. "It was occupied by its owner, whether he was physically standing inside it or not." She turned back to Mr. Khan. "What did you do when you saw him at the door?" she asked. "I invited him in," the neighbor replied. "To my house. He sat at my dining table. He didn't take off his jacket. He kept staring at his front door through my window like it was going to apologize." A couple of people in the gallery swallowed hard. "Did you call his daughter?" the judge asked. "Yes," he said. 3 times. She didn't answer. I left a message. The next morning, facility staff showed up at my door. They said there'd been a misunderstanding and that Mr. Rahman had wandered off. They took him back. The judge's eyes sharpened. "Wandered off." She repeated that. Mr. Khan's jaw tightened. "He didn't wander," he said firmly. "He told me he called a taxi, gave them his address. The driver brought him where he asked to go. Home." The daughter's voice came out strained. "He wasn't supposed to leave," she said. "He could have fallen. He could have been hurt." "He is already hurt," the neighbor said quietly. "Just not the way you mean." Silence swallowed the court. Judge Carter thanked Mr. Khan and dismissed him back to his seat. Then she turned to the father. "Sir," she said, "why didn't you stay with your neighbor? Why did you go back with the staff the next morning?" He looked at his daughter. For the first time since walking into the courtroom, She looked back. Because she told them to, he said simply. And I didn't want to cause trouble for her. The words landed like a stone in a still pond, sending invisible ripples across the room. Judge Carter exhaled slowly. The facility records, she said. Lifting another file, note that you, Miss Ramon, told staff your father was confused and manipulative, and that he might say things that aren't true to get sympathy. She raised an eyebrow. Does that sound familiar? She asked. The daughter squeezed the podium. I was trying to protect him, she insisted. People take advantage of old men like him. I didn't want strangers interfering. But it was fine, the judge said, for strangers to pack his life into boxes while he sat alone in a room he didn't choose. The daughter's lips trembled. Asterisk. I didn't pack alone, she said desperately. My cousin helped. My boyfriend. It wasn't like we were having a party. Do you know how hard it is to go through your dead mother's clothes? To throw away your childhood? None of you were there. None of you saw. She swiped at her eyes, angry at the tears as much as at the accusations. I did the dirty work, she said. Everybody else gets to judge from the outside. For a moment, the courtroom held its breath. Because buried in the wreckage of her choices, there was a shard of something human, the exhaustion of the caregiver. But then Judge Carter spoke, and that shard was placed exactly where it belonged. Being tired, she said, does not give you the right to erase someone's life while they are still living it. Her tone cooled. And we haven't even touched, she added, pulling a slim, different-colored folder from the pile. On the most serious document in front of me. The daughter's eyes widened. What now? She asked, voice barely more than a whisper. The judge opened the folder. This, she said, is a revised will drafted 6 months ago. It leaves your father's home and the bulk of his savings. Solely to you. The father's head jerked up. I never signed a new will, he said sharply. Judge Carter looked at him. According to this, she said. You did. Asterisk, she placed the document where both could see it. Signature looks familiar? She asked. The daughter stared at the paper, color draining from her face so fast it was almost frightening. She began, but no more words came. The judge's voice softened in a way that somehow made it worse. Double quotes, Miss Raman. She said, before you answer, I want you to think very carefully. Because forgery on a testamentary document, especially involving an elderly parent, is not just ugly. It is criminal. The room felt colder suddenly. Asterisk, the cameras, the people. The lights, everything seemed to lean in. The judge tapped the signature line once. Did your father sign this? She asked, or did you? The world outside the courtroom kept moving. Cars honked. Phones buzzed. People lived their small, oblivious lives inside. Time seemed to stop. All eyes were on one trembling woman and a single black line of ink on a piece of paper. Did your father sign this? Judge Carter repeated. Or did you? The daughter's throat worked. Her fingers twisted the edge of the podium until her knuckles blanched. She started. Then stopped. Then started again. I didn't forge it, she said finally. The lawyer did. The judge's eyebrows lifted a fraction. The lawyer, she echoed. Yes, the daughter rushed on. He said it would be easier to just update things. Dad was tired. We'd been in his office for an hour going over forms. The lawyer stepped out, came back with the new will, and said, we'll handle the signatures later. Standard practice. I trusted him. I didn't know you put my name like that. You didn't know, the judge repeated slowly. That a will appeared giving you everything? Tears slid down the daughter's cheeks now, unchecked. I thought, she choked. I thought it was just updating beneficiaries. You know, making things smoother if something happened. I didn't think. She looked at her father, and for the first time, her expression wasn't defensive or angry. It was terrified. I swear, she said. I didn't sit there and trace his name like some cartoon villain. I'm not a monster. Judge Carter watched her for a long, silent beat. Here's where we are, she said finally. Your signature is on the engagement letter with that attorney. You attended that meeting. You discussed changes. Whether you personally dragged the pen or encouraged someone else to cut your father out of his own wishes, the intent behind it remains the same. She turned to Mr. Rahman. Did you ever instruct that lawyer, she asked, to leave everything to your daughter? No, he said firmly. My last will. He tapped his chest, as if the memory lived there, left the house split between my 2 children and a small portion to charity. I told them that. Both of them. The daughter exhaled shakily. He did, she admitted. He said that. I didn't like it. My brother hasn't set foot here in 5 years. I'm the one who stayed. I'm the one who sacrificed. Why should he get half? Her voice rose with each sentence, anger edging out fear. Why does everyone act like I'm stealing from some perfect saint? She demanded. Where was he when Dad fell? Where was he when Mom was in chemo? I was there, always, me, so forgive me if I didn't want to split. Everything with a stranger who shares my last name, but nothing else. The judge's gaze didn't waver. Say your brother's name, she said quietly. The daughter blinked, caught off guard. What? Say his name, Judge Carter repeated. Not he, not him, his name. The daughter swallowed. Amir, she said finally. My brother's name is Amir, and who paid for Amir's college? The judge asked. The father answered before the daughter could. I did, he said. 2 jobs. Night shifts, overtime. I wanted both my children to have more than I did. His eyes were shiny, but his voice was steady. I didn't count who visited more, he said. I didn't make a chart of sacrifices. I am their father. That is the job. The room felt that even the daughter did. Her shoulders folded and a little. Judge Carter's tone softened, but not enough to blur the lines. Caregiving can be suffocating, she said. Lonely, unfair. I see children dragged into that role all the time while siblings scatter. The resentment is real. The burnout is real. But there is a line between feeling abandoned and becoming an abuser yourself. She let those words land. And you, she said, crossed that line the moment you used his trust as leverage to reorganize his life around your convenience. The daughter's tears came faster now. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she whispered. At first it was just small things. I thought, it's fine, I'll replace it next month. Then next month came and there was another emergency. And another. And soon it was just normal. She looked at her father again, voice breaking. I was angry, she said. At you, at Amir, at Mom for dying and leaving me alone with all this. I told myself you owed me. That this was my compensation. That was the word I used in my head, compensation. She laughed bitterly through the tears. Compensation for what? She asked herself. For having parents who loved me enough to keep me. For having a roof over my head. For being trusted with more than I could handle. She shook her head. I hated the house, she confessed. Every creak, every photo. It smelled like medicine and old memories. I wanted something new, clean, mine, and the fastest way there was through you. No one moved. The father's lips parted. He looked like a man who'd been stabbed with a weapon he'd sharpened himself, because he had raised her to be strong, to fight for what she wanted. He just never imagined she'd fight him. Judge Carter let the silence stretch until it almost hummed. Ma'am, she said gently to the father, before this hearing you told my clerk something else. Something you believed you'd done wrong? The old man nodded slowly. I said, I gave her too much, he murmured. Too much trust. Too much control. Too much of my guilt. Guilt? The judge repeated. For not being there enough when she was younger, he explained, eyes far away. I worked. A lot. Missed school events. Fell asleep at the table sometimes. After her mother died, I threw money at problems because I didn't know how to throw comfort. His face tightened. So when she said, sign this, I'll handle it, I thought, maybe that's how I make up for being gone before. He looked down at his hands. But I forgot something, he said, voice barely above a whisper. That I got better. And that the control I gave her, she was never meant to keep forever. The judge watched him, the weight of his words settling over everyone. Sir, she said quietly, love should never require you to surrender your dignity. Then she turned. Once more to the daughter. Do you understand? She asked. What your choices have cost him? The daughter nodded, sobbing now. He lost his house, she said. His car. His independence. His savings. No, the judge said softly. Those are things. They can be rebuilt, compensated, restructured. He lost something else first. She glanced at the father. What did you lose, sir? She asked. He looked at his daughter. Really looked. I lost, he said slowly, the feeling that my child was my safe place. The daughter doubled over slightly, like the words had punched the air out of her. Judge Carter gave her a moment to breathe. Then her tone shifted. Sharpening with purpose. Miss Rahman, she said, I'm going to ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly. Right now. No rehearsed lines. No defenses. The daughter straightened as much as she could, wiping at her face. On the night you sat with your boyfriend and talked about evaluations and doctors and signatures, the judge said, did you hope on any level that your father would not come home again? The room went absolutely, suffocatingly silent. The daughter's pupils blew wide. Her chest rose and fell in quick, shallow breaths. I wanted peace, she said finally, voice raw. I wanted a life that wasn't scheduled around mealtimes and medication. I wanted to be just Sarah again. Not Sarah, caretaker. Not Sarah, the responsible one. Just. Hey, that's not an answer, the judge said quietly. Did you or did you not in your heart want him out of that house permanently? The daughter's lips trembled. Yes, she whispered. The word was so soft the microphones barely caught it. Yes, she said again, louder this time, as if forcing herself to swallow the poison. I wanted him out. I told myself it was for his own good. But deep down, I knew it was also for mine. The father's eyes closed, not in surprise. In confirmation, he had suspected. Now he knew. Judge Carter sat back, the shape of the case fully formed. You chose relief over responsibility, she said. Comfort over conscience. And in doing so, you turned your father into an obstacle instead of a person. She folded her hands. Before I give my ruling, she said, I want you to do something for me. The daughter sniffed, confused. What? She asked. The judge gestured to the man at the opposing podium. Look at him, she said. Not as the problem you've been trying to solve. Not as the home you wanted to sell. As the man who carried you on his shoulders when you were too tired to walk. The daughter's eyes filled again as she turned. Her father stood there, smaller than she remembered, older than she allowed herself to see. A cardigan too thin for the courtroom air. Shoes polished as if this were a job interview with fate. I want you, the judge said, to tell him what your choices cost him. Not me, not this court, him. The daughter's lips moved soundlessly at first. Then, finally, the words came. Asterisk. I cost you everything, she began, voice shaking. The courtroom held its breath. I cost you your house, she said, the one you and Mom bought with nothing but double shifts and cheap furniture. I cost you your routine, your neighbors, your garden, the chair where you fell asleep in front of the news. She swallowed. I cost you your keys, she went on. Your wallet, your sense that you could decide when to leave and when to come home. I took that from you and told myself it was for your safety when really, she choked. Really, it was for my control. Her father watched her, eyes swimming but steady. I cost you your pride, she whispered. Made you feel like a child again, like you couldn't be trusted to pour your own tea. I talked about you to doctors like you weren't in the room. I rolled my eyes when you repeated stories I'd already heard. I forgot you'd earned the right to repeat them. She wiped her face with the back of her hand, breath hitching. But more than all that, she said, voice thinning to a fragile thread, I cost you your trust in me. The one person who should have been your safe place, I turned into your threat. I made you afraid to knock on your own door. I made you sleep in a stranger's bed and call it home. The tears finally spilled over. I did that, she said simply. Not circumstances, not the system, me. Mr. Rahman's lips trembled. His hand inched slightly toward her direction on the podium, then stopped, suspended in midair, as if even in this moment he didn't know whether he had the right to reach for her. Judge Carter watched it all, the wreckage and the rawness. "Sir," she said gently to the father, "do you want to respond?" He took a slow breath. "I wanted many times," he said, "to believe that I imagined it, that I misread her. Parents do that. We lie to ourselves to keep our hearts from breaking." He looked at his daughter, and his voice softened, even through the hurt. "I blame the boyfriend," he said. "The stress. The world. I blame myself. But hearing you say it," he nodded, a sad, small acceptance. "It is like touching a wound with clean hands," he said. "It hurts. But at least now I know where it really is." The daughter sobbed openly now. "I'm sorry," she cried. "I know it's late, but I am. I'm so sorry." The room was thick with something that wasn't forgiveness yet, but wasn't contempt either. It was the murky, painful space in between. Judge Carter let it swell, then slowly cut through it with the steady blade of law. "This court," she said, "was not convened to resolve feelings. It was convened to resolve harm." She straightened. "So here is what is going to happen," she continued. Voice firm, every syllable like a brick laid carefully into place. "First," she said, "the power of attorney you have been misusing is hereby revoked. Effective immediately. You will have no authority over your father's finances, medical decisions, property, or legal affairs. None. Zero." The daughter nodded, tears still sliding. In that moment, it almost looked like relief. "Second," the judge went on, "you will provide a full accounting of every cent withdrawn, transferred, or charged from your father's accounts during the period of your control. Every transaction, every check, every credit line. I don't care if it was $5 at a coffee shop or $5,000 at a travel agency. You will list it, in writing, under oath." She glanced at the clerk. "A forensic accountant will be appointed if necessary," she added. "And I suspect it will be." The daughter swallowed hard. "Third," Judge Carter said, "for any money identified as personal use, luxury spending, or unrelated to your father's direct care, you will be ordered to repay. In full. No, I'll make it up someday. No creative excuses. This court will set a schedule, and you will follow it." The father shifted. "Your Honor," he began softly, "I don't want her to suffer." The judge finished for him. "I know, you made that clear. But I am not here to make her suffer. I am here to rebalance what she unbalanced." He fell silent. "Fourth," she continued, "your father's home will be legally secured in his name alone. Any liens you placed, any credit lines you opened, any unauthorized agreements you signed, those will be reported and, where possible, reversed. The attempted will change will be referred to the Bar Association for review of that attorney's conduct." Her gaze cooled. "And the question of whether a crime has been committed, elder financial abuse, fraud, forgery, that will be referred to the district attorney's office. I do not decide whether charges are filed, but I will not bury what I have seen here." The daughter's body shook. "Please," she whispered, "don't send me to jail. I'll fix it. I swear I'll fix it." Judge Carter looked at her for a long, measured moment. "You are terrified of consequences," she said. "But not once in the last year were you terrified enough to stop before taking what wasn't yours. That is how people end up here. They treat every line like a gray area until there are no lines left." She leaned forward slightly, her voice softening at the edges but remaining steel at the core. "The possibility of criminal charges is not about revenge," she said. "It is about something you seem to have lived without for a long time: accountability." She turned to Mr. Rahman. "Sir," she asked, "is there anything else you want from this court? Anything I haven't addressed?" He thought for a moment. "Just a moment. Yes," he said. "I want my time back." The judge's features softened. "I can't give you that," she said honestly. "No court can." He nodded. UNSURPRISD. Double quote, "Then give me this," he said. "Make sure that from now on, nobody can move me, sign for me, or speak for me, unless I ask them to." It was such a small request on the surface. And yet, It contained everything. That, Judge Carter said. I can do. She turned to the clerk. An order will be entered, she said, affirming his full legal competence as established by his physicians, appointing an independent advocate should he ever choose one not his daughter, not any family member with financial interests, and placing a protective flag on his accounts requiring dual verification for any major changes. The clerk nodded. Already writing. The judge looked back and forth between father and daughter one last time. Now, she said quietly, almost to herself, there's one more thing that needs saying. Not as a judge. As a person who has watched too many families disintegrate in rooms like this. She set aside the files. No papers, no evidence. Just words now. To you, sir, she said, addressing the father. I say this. Loving your child does not mean trusting them blindly. You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to require proof, signatures, second opinions. Wanting protection is not the same as rejecting love. His eyes glistened. To you, she said. Turning to the daughter, I say, being a caregiver is brutal. Thankless. It can twist your mind, your patience, your sense of fairness. But the moment you turn a sacrifice into a debt, every kind act becomes a receipt you wave in someone's face. She let that sink in. You cannot collect on your childhood, she continued, by draining your parents' bank account. You cannot balance the scale by tipping them into homelessness while you climb out of debt. Her voice dropped, and if you're ever given trust again by anyone, you remember this. The easiest way to lose yourself is to keep telling yourself you deserve what you are stealing. The daughter nodded. Sobbing silently, Judge Carter lifted her gavel. This court, she said, finds in favor of the plaintiff, Mr. Imshiz Rahman. Full restitution as ordered. Full restoration of rights. Referral to appropriate authorities. Protective measures in place. She looked at them one last time. As for forgiveness, she added quietly, that's outside my jurisdiction. That belongs to the two of you. And time. The gavel came down with a crack that was not loud. But final dot, the audience exhaled as if they'd all been holding their breath together. The father stood a little straighter. The daughter stood a little smaller dot as the bailiff called the next case. The question lingered in the air and on every screen where this story would someday play. When family betrays you, and the law finally steps in, is justice enough? Or is there a part of you that will always wait for something the court can't order, an apology that came too late, and a love that might never look the same? If you were sitting in that courtroom, watching a father reclaim his life from his own child, would you speak up for him? Or would you walk out wondering whether, in his heart, he still would have chosen her over everything he lost?